saving up a handful of rice from every meal to help the needy. This is a common practice in many farming villages in Myanmar. In 2008, Cyclone Nargis devastated Myanmar. Tzu Chi volunteers quickly went to carry out relief and gave out rice seeds to help affected farmers recover from the disaster. To pay love forward, a farmer started to grab a handful of rice before cooking and save it in a jar for the poor. Through word of mouth, more and more people took up the practice. Today, over 1,500 farming households in 33 villages are saving up rice every day to help people worse off than them. Every month, these farmers can pool together over 3,000 kilograms of rice, which are then distributed to more than 50 families in need. How did this practice of the poor helping the poor get started in the out-of-the-way places in Myanmar? The answer is Tzu Chi Taiwan. In 1966, Dharma Master Zheng Yan founded Tzu Chi to carry out charity work. To collect funds for the work, the master came up with an ingenious idea. She asked her 30 followers, who were all housewives, to put aside 50 NT cents from their grocery money every day and save the money in a bamboo coin bank. At the end of every month, they collected everyone's savings to help the poor. As the 30 housewives shared what they were doing with others, more and more people were inspired to do the same. With more funds, Tzu Chi was able to help more people in need. Like ripples in a pond, the practice soon spread across town, as people realized that doing good was as simple as that. Over 50 years later, today, the practice is not just followed by Tzu Chi volunteers only. Wherever they go to carry out relief around the world, the volunteers will share the practice with those they help, hoping to let them understand that everyone, rich or poor, can give. With this cycle of love, Tzu Chi gradually reached out to more and more areas of the world. As of 2019, Tzu Chi has set up offices in 62 countries and regions and brought aid to 100. For overseas Tzu Chi volunteers of Chinese descent, Master Zheng Yan always reminds them to give back to the countries they call home through carrying out Tzu Chi's missions locally. She also encourages them to collect funds themselves and use the local resources they can gather for the work they do in their countries of residence. In Taiwan, the birthplace of Tzu Chi, the volunteers' footsteps have reached countless out-of-the-way places around the island. Not long after the New Year's Day of 2019, Tzu Chi already planned a free clinic in Shuangxi, a mountainous town in northern Taiwan. 88-year-old Lian Wupan is the first certified Tzu Chi volunteer in Shuangxi. She has been volunteering with Tzu Chi for nearly 30 years. Given the mountainous topography of Shuangxi, many locals live in areas without dependable accessibility. When they fall ill, it's very inconvenient for them to go see a doctor. So in 2002, Tzu Chi started to go in and provide free medical services to the locals. As Tzu Chi volunteers and doctors have been regularly caring for the locals for nearly 20 years, they have become good friends, even like family. Despite being advanced in age, these Tzu Chi volunteers have never passed up a chance to serve. Their presence has also brought great support and delight to the elderly in this remote town. In Geelong, northern Taiwan, on the morning of a holiday, a group of Tzu Chi volunteers gathered in front of a building.
因为伊人生的路途中遇到困难厝的老甲足厉害，伊无才好处理，有这个因缘，互大家利用这个时间为咱的生命来尽一份力量来帮助苏太太伊会当度过这个难关。
Mrs. Su is deaf, mute, and widowed. She also suffers from depression. With 2 young children and a leaking house, she is at her wit's end. From tearing down the house to repairing and painting, Tzu Chi volunteers spent 2 weeks renovating Mrs. Su's house. They worked in their spare time and paid everything from their own pockets. The volunteers did all this just for one reason: to give Mrs. Su a safe house to live in. A midnight fire 2 years ago destroyed much of Ah Zhong's house. Poor to begin with, Ah Zhong and his family could only make do with what's left of their house.
今天我们后里联络处的师兄师姐，一起要来帮忙张先生做修缮的工作。希望我们今天所有的工作都非常的圆满，然后安全第一，好不好？好，好，感恩。来红头，地头拿换，一个洗手瓶，一个洗手瓶。你手就袂定第一手啊。最后一棒洗下来。阿中，有福气阿中。
这也是我的房间，
这根本就是全新的嘛。
At the age of 17, Ah Zhong's daughter finally has her own room. Tzu Chi volunteers even built a window for her. With the newly furbished home, a window to a new life has also been opened for the family.
阿中加油！
这新的白色的较水啊。
All across Taiwan, Tzu Chi volunteers have helped numerous families like Ah Zhong's over the decades. In 2018 alone, Tzu Chi volunteers in Taiwan served a total of over 18 million volunteer shifts to help over 30 million people in need. Tzu Chi offices around the island also implemented 12 charitable projects to benefit over 26 million people in 2018. How exactly did Tzu Chi do it? On February 6, 2018, with the wood-on-wood clapping sound at 9:40 p.m., everyone at Tzu Chi's headquarters, the Jingse abode in Hualien, called it a day. 2 hours later, at 11:50 p.m., a strong earthquake rattled farmland. Rescuers raced against time to save lives.
医生完了都有过来了。
有，我们大概有300个医生在这里。
很辛苦哈。
目前是还在抢救。
Staff at the abode immediately set up a disaster relief coordination center. Another group of Tzu Chi staff quickly made phone calls to see if everyone was safe and sound. Monastic practitioners at the abode also gathered in the kitchen to prepare food for quake survivors and rescuers. Although they did not yet know the scale of the disaster, decades of experience told them that ginger soup and hot meals are most helpful in the midnight winter. 2 hours after the quake hit, steamed buns, ginger soup, and soybean milk for 500 people were ready to be distributed. People in shelters, medical personnel in the ER, and the injured in hospital all experienced firsthand the warm, loving care from Tzu Chi. So how did Tzu Chi do it? Inspired by Master Zhengyan's example, Tzu Chi members feel others' suffering as their very own. Wherever help is needed, they'll be there to offer support without being asked to do so. This is the case not only for the volunteers in Taiwan, but also those in other parts of the world.
然后这是给他们煮饭的油。
我觉得当时上人问我那句话，他在提醒我，我的出发心在哪里？那我就在思考，是啊，我的出发心是因为爱，可是为什么一切都变了？我必须找回原本的那一份爱。怎么去找回那份爱呢？就是照上人所教我们的，在人群中付出。
Located in Southeast Africa, Mozambique is one of the poorest countries in the world. Despite that, the locals are spiritually wealthy, as they are full of love for others. They look after families in need, bring the suffering emotional support, and give out aid to the poor. What they do is no different from what Master Zhengyan guided Tzu Chi volunteers to do when Tzu Chi was first founded in 1966.
Antivulo wa rirhandzu wa Master Zhengyan leswaku wa ni yaka mbilwini. Se loko ni vona mama na Dionisia a boya ni ntirho wa rirhandzu eki swi ni nghenile swi tlhela swi ni tshama ni leswi a ni hanyaka swona eka maluwa a ka ha li swona ni kuma na vutomi bya mina byi kumeka na byi le henhla.
The local volunteers grow crops to not only support themselves, but also share their harvest with the needy.
Exatamente ensinar, e nós também gostamos que venham nos ensinar cada vez mais. E é bom, não podemos só depender de ser ajudados, mostram também de como é que podemos te ajudar, fazer para amanhã.
This is a bag for rice from Taiwan. After finishing the rice, local volunteers sew the rice bags, turning them into carry bags.
娃娃鞋，对，都是手工的。还有我们拆下的线也不可以收哦，我们觉得这个线很好用哦，一定要继续缝。
Master Zhengyan loves and cherishes these African volunteers so dearly that she refers to them as precious pearls. With passion and hope in their hearts, these African Tzu Chi volunteers will continue in their effort to transform the lives of countless people in Africa. Started with a Buddhist nun's simple wish to help the poor, Tzu Chi has grown from a tiny seed into a big tree. and the tree has borne more seeds that spread and take root in many other parts of the world. Over the decades, these trees have grown strong, standing tall to provide shelter and support to all unconditionally.